Now folks, in this short demo, we'll be taking a look at the SAS, Storage Access Signature, features of Azure Storage. So first we'll clone the repository from Azure samples on GitHub. So it's on the github.com/azure-samples. The repository we're searching for is storage. We're going to do a search from that, .NET. Now the project we'll be opening or cloning is the storage.net SAS getting started. So let's go ahead and copy the clone URL. And head back to Visual Studio. Alright, so the clone takes just a few seconds. Now let's open up this solution. Now turn it over to our Solution Explorer. Let's open up program.cs. Right-click on the project, do a quick rebuild to restore the NuGet. Now there will be two kinds of SAS we'll be talking about. The first kind is the ad hoc SAS that is used to provide a distinct URL, which provides access with certain permissions to containers or blobs that's stored on Azure. The second kind of SAS that we'll be looking at too is the and also the shared access policy SAS. Now the purpose of creating a SAS is so that we can pass this signed URL to end users to delegate end users direct access to the resource stored on Azure blobs. This pattern on the cloud design pattern documentation is called the valate design pattern. All right, so let's step through this code and point out a few interesting things here. In order for this project to work, let's go to app.config, and we're going to have to set up the storage connection string. Otherwise, it will be using a local storage account. So let's go to our portal. Let's go to all resources. We'll be using the store 20532c storage account. When we find the storage account we want to use, let's go to access key and copy the connection string using the ... And let's go configure our connection string here. That's not the right one. Save the connection string. Alright, so set up some variables that we will need later, the blob names and the contents of the blobs and so on. Alright, so this is our container to store things, our shared access policies. Let's define these variables. So the cloud storage account is going to use the cloud configuration manager, which reads the connection string from the app.config. And using the storage account object to create a cloud blob client. And we're going to try to get the container reference to the container name. And if the container doesn't exist, which should not on the first time we run this program, we'll actually go ahead and create one. Good time to start debugging, by the way. All right, so it looks like we don't have that container, so we'll create it. Now here we're going to go into the create shared access policy. Now this sample code will create a shared access policy that grant access to containers. Okay. So create a new instance of shared access blob policy that says it's going to expire 24 hours from now, and the permissions associated with this policy. And we're using the property initializer syntax here for the immediately after the constructor of the shared access blob policy. So moving on. Now, to prevent overwriting any existing permissions on the container, we're going to add to the existing containers. So it's important that we get the container's existing permission before we simply assign the permissions to it and overwrite anything that's already assigned to the containers. So let's make sure we don't wipe any existing settings out. Okay, so notice we're going to permissions.sharedaccesspolicies.add. We're adding this new policy. Okay, we're using the policy name that's passed in as part of the call to this procedure. And after we add the additional permission to the permissions collection, we're going to call the container.setPermissions. Now this will retain any existing permission grant on the container. All right. So we do have a share access policy. It doesn't look like we're doing anything to it at the moment. No worries. All right, we're going to create a SaaS URI for the container. Now this is going to be an ad hoc SaaS, meaning let's go into the get container SaaS. Okay. Now, because we're not using the stored policy, we're going to create an ad hoc one. Okay, we're going to generate SaaS with ad hoc. So here we're creating a new shared access blob policy. So this will give us access to the container, and it will start 5 minutes prior because unless all the clocks in the world are synchronized, it's always a good idea to go back a few minutes just so that in case the client who received the signature is a couple of minutes or 3 minutes ahead of where the server is, they're not going to get an error message. So just a good practice. And again, it will expire in 24 hours. And the permission is to allow list of the contents and writing to the container. All right, so I think we're ready, and we're going to call the get shared access signature. Notice the container is passed in, okay, and that container is the same one we just did a create if not exist. So we're going to say container.get shared access signature using the ad hoc policy. All right, and that's our SaaS container token. This is ad hoc because it's not based on a stored access policy. All right. So we're simply echoing out the SaaS for the container. So it's a good time to take a look at the command console and see, okay, that's not a very good way to see these guys. No. Let's see if I can make the font really huge. You know what? Another way I can do is, instead of showing you that, I could just show you the contents of this SaaS. Now these SaaS are a very real thing. Oh, signature did not match. All right, so let's see if our test method to test the container SaaS actually works. So F11, go into that, and we should be able to do list and write to the container, but not be able to read from it. So here we're going to create a new blob container, but this time the constructor of the blob container is based off the SAS URI that was generated in the earlier exercise. Okay, and we're going to create a reference to the blob name called SAS blob1.txt. We haven't uploaded it. We're about to. We're going to write to it. So container.get blob block blob reference. We'll point to the blob, and we're ready to create a file from memory stream and upload from memory stream. Now, it appears it has worked. Otherwise, we would have gotten an exception. And this time, we're simply going to do a list blob. And it looks like now we have something in that container, and we can certainly look at the URI. And indeed, that's a SAS container. Add SAS blob1.txt. So we're able to list the blob. We don't have permission to write to it. To read the content of the blob. We can upload it and confirm it's there. So list operation succeeded. So that's a good sign. So our read the contents of the blobs. Let's see if we're able to do that. So we're trying to download to stream, and just as we expected, there is the storage exception because we don't have the permission based on the SAS to be able to read back. Now, in fact, if you take a closer look at the SAS signature, let me go ahead and pin this. Okay, so embedded within the SAS signature is the permission. Write and list. So that's what the WL stands for, and this would tell Azure what permission is allowed if the SAS is turned out to be genuine. Okay, if we try to delete, same thing should happen. Delete is not allowed. All right, so it looks like ad hoc SAS does work. Now here we had created a shared policy earlier. Now this time we're going to create a SAS that's not pointing to the container. Rather, this SAS is used to endorse the policy. Okay. Now I did an F10, which is actually not that good idea. But in any case. Now we're using the SAS for blob container, but I guess I should go to the definition real quick before I let this get away. That's called get container SAS URI. Okay, I'm gonna walk you through walk you all through this anyways. So we take the store policy name. Remember, there can be up to 5 policies on a container, so keep that in mind. So we're going to take the policy name along with the container. Okay, and if the policy name equals null, actually no, we're going to supply the policy name, and we are going to say container.get shared access signature. Notice this time we are using the second parameter, which says what is the store policy name. Okay, we're going to get an access signature for that, and fair enough. And this should return a SAS container token. Now this signature allows someone to perform according to the shared access policy, which where do we do that? We did it back here, create shared access policy. So that shared access policy indicate that we should be able to read, list, write, create, and delete just about everything against that container. All right. So now here is the policy name. Okay, so you notice the SAS now includes the policy name tutorial policy. Okay, now we should go ahead and test if this SAS based off a policy is working as advertised. So again, we're going to get a blob reference, and we're going to upload a file, SAS blob2. Right, succeeds. Now, a key thing to remember is, notice this time we're using, again, the account SAS. Okay, not the, sorry, not the account SAS, the shared access policy. SAS, not the ad hoc SAS. So, write succeed, as it was before. List succeeded. Now, because this time we're using the access policy, our read should succeed. Download to stream. Fantastic. No exception this time. Delete the blob. Works just as well. All right. Now we can repeat the same thing for a specific blob rather than the entire container, and that works fine too. Okay, so that concludes our SAS, both ad hoc and based on shared access policy. Now, the added benefit of using a policy is that when you revoke the policy, it will revoke all the shared signature generated from it. All right.